In this video, we'll be taking a look at 4 NBA games happening on December 26, 2025, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 8 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released, so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 4 NBA games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start, if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Milwaukee Bucks versus Memphis Grizzlies. The Bucks head into this matchup still without Giannis Antetokounmpo, and they have Gary Trent Jr. listed as questionable, which keeps their rotation a bit wobbly before you even think about the opponent. The Grizzlies are missing Brandon Clark, Zach Edey, and Ty Jerome, with Jay Morant and Cedric Coward both tagged as questionable, so their injury report looks like it could wrap around the block. Milwaukee was in a nasty slump before that big win over the Pacers on Tuesday, so you can argue they finally took a breath, but it is still Memphis that opens as the favorite here. They have clearly been the team in better form, even while juggling all those absences, and that recent consistency matters when you are comparing two flawed groups. The Bucks are still without their best player, and they are on the road where they are 4-10 SU, which is not exactly a glowing travel resume. Memphis, on the other hand, keeps finding ways to scrape out wins and has cash tickets here and there despite that cartoonishly long injury list, which says a lot about their effort level and coaching. History also leans very hard in one direction. The Grizzlies are 8-2 SU and 9-1 ATS in their last 10 games against the Bucks, and they have not dropped a game to Milwaukee since January 2022, back when Spider-Man: No Way Home was still in theaters. That run probably has a lot to do with Milwaukee being without Giannis at key moments, but the pattern is still there, and bettors tend to remember streaks like that. Right now, the Grizzlies are on a roll, playing with real confidence despite the injuries, and the number here is short enough at home that you do not need them to be perfect, only solid. Given the current form, the matchup history, and the Bucks' record without their star, backing Memphis to keep the momentum going as a small home favorite feels like the more reasonable lean. As our first pick for this matchup, the Memphis Grizzlies to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The Milwaukee Bucks are averaging 113 points on 48.7% shooting while allowing 116.2 points on 47% from the field. Offensively, they are knocking down 39.7% of their threes, which is a strong clip, even if their 72.5% from the free throw line leaves a few points on the table each night. Defensively, they are allowing opponents to hit 35.6% from deep, and they are grabbing about 40 rebounds per game, which suggests they can finish possessions but still give up plenty of clean looks on the perimeter. The Memphis Grizzlies are averaging 115 points on 45.4% shooting and also allowing 116.2 points on 46.7% shooting, so they live in that same high-scoring, high-conceding neighborhood. They are hitting 35.1% from 3 and 79.6% at the free throw line, which quietly adds a few extra points across 4 quarters when the whistle starts blowing more often. On the other end, they allow 36.6% from beyond the arc and pull down about 46.2 rebounds per game, so there are plenty of possessions, plenty of shots, and plenty of chances for scoring runs both ways. Put all of that together and you get two teams that can score, that give up more than they would like, and that play in games where the scoreboard rarely stays quiet for long. Honestly, with both offenses capable and both defenses allowing well over 110 points per night on average, this shapes up more like a game that leans toward a higher total than a grinded-out affair. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. Phoenix Suns versus New Orleans Pelicans. The Suns roll into this one still missing Jalen Green and Grayson Allen, so their perimeter rotation is thinner than it looks on paper, even if they just reminded everyone what their ceiling is in that blowout win over the Lakers in their last outing. On the other side, the Pelicans have DeJounte Murray and Herbert Jones ruled out, with Jordan Poole sitting in that annoying questionable bucket, so their guard and wing depth takes a real hit just as they had started to look like a legit threat again. Not long ago, New Orleans put together that 5-game win streak and looked like a completely different different team. Then they turned around and crashed back to reality with a bad loss on Tuesday, which kind of sums up their 2 steps forward, 1 step back vibe. The funny thing is, the Pelicans are still playing some of their best basketball in years overall, winning 5 of their last 6 coming into this spot, but they just cannot seem to enjoy a full-strength lineup for more than about 5 minutes. Here is the thing, the Suns have not exactly been on some long heater either. Their season has been more fits and starts than steady climb, but they have quietly handled business against the teams they are supposed to beat. They already smacked this Pelicans group by 23 points back in November, which sits in the back of your mind when you think about what happens if Phoenix shows up focused and the Pels are down key rotation guys again. The line sits in a reasonable range, not asking Phoenix to perform miracles on the road, just to play to their level against a good but short-handed opponent. I still do not fully trust the Pelicans in these spots against quality teams, especially when they are missing important defensive and playmaking pieces. And that hesitation matters when you stare at a short number. If the Suns are going to make anything meaningful out of this season, these are the exact games they need to handle, taking care of a strong but wounded opponent instead of letting them hang around. Sure, the Pelicans are absolutely capable of pulling the upset at home. That part has not changed, but with the current injury situation and Phoenix's track record in this matchup, the Suns feel like very appealing value at this price. As our first pick for this matchup, the Phoenix Suns to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The Phoenix Suns are averaging 114.9 points per game on 46.8% shooting, which tells you they are capable of efficient scoring when their stars are in rhythm and the ball does not stick. They are allowing 113.9 points on 47.5% shooting, so they are not exactly a lockdown unit defensively, more like good in stretches, leaky in others, which tends to create swings within games. From deep, Phoenix is hitting 36.4% of its threes and converting 79.7% from the free throw line, which is a nice foundation for steady scoring across 4 quarters. They are allowing opponents to shoot 35.7% from beyond the arc and grabbing about 41.9 rebounds per contest, which means there are enough possessions and second chance opportunities to keep the scoreboard moving, but not necessarily exploding every single night. On the other side, the New Orleans Pelicans are averaging 115.5 points on 46.4% shooting, so they bring plenty of offensive punch themselves. Defensively, they are allowing a big 122.8 points on 48.9% shooting, which suggests a lot of clean looks for their opponents and the potential for games to feel like track meets when things get loose. From 3, they are hitting 34.4% and sitting at 79.3% from the free throw line, while allowing 35.6% from deep and pulling down around 43.3 rebounds per game. Put together, those numbers paint a picture of 2 teams that can clearly score and that give up their fair share of points, but that does not automatically mean every matchup between them has to soar over whatever number the odds makers hang. With both sides capable of offensive lulls, especially when key pieces are banged up or missing, and with the possibility of stretches where possessions slow down and defenses at least tighten enough to force tough looks, the posted total can start to look a bit ambitious. So while the raw averages scream offense, the combination of injury questions, potential inconsistency, and the chance of a slightly more controlled rhythm nudges this toward a game that comes in under a lofty projected number rather than turning into a full-on scoring festival. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Detroit Pistons versus Utah Jazz. The Pistons are watching Ronald Holland II with that knee issue, and his questionable tag is really the only thing hanging over what is otherwise a close to full-strength group right now. On the other side, the Jazz are without Georges Niang and Walker Kessler, so their front court and spacing are not exactly at ideal levels, even if they are starting to get some key names back into the mix. Detroit has quietly turned into one of the hotter teams in the league, which feels strange to say if you remember how their season started, but a 3-game win streak and a mostly healthy roster have changed the tone a bit. They are finally getting the version of this roster they imagined, with players like Tobias Harris and Jalen Duren stepping up and giving them real production instead of just flashes. Utah, meanwhile, has slipped into a 4-game losing skid after that latest setback on Tuesday, which adds a little extra pressure to every home date, especially when the crowd is used to this building being a tough place to play. Here is where things get a little more interesting than a simple hot team versus cold team label. The Pistons keep stacking wins and absolutely have the ability to control this matchup, but odds makers have been hanging some pretty hefty numbers on them lately, and that changes the calculus on the spread. Over their last 10 games, Detroit is only 3-6 to 1 against the spread, which tells you that the market has moved ahead of their results a bit, pricing them like a finished product instead of a still developing group. Since November 24th, they are just 1-5 against the spread when favored by 8 or more points, which really highlights the gap between winning games and covering inflated numbers. Utah, for all its flaws, is getting healthier, and you can see that in the simple fact that Lauri Markkanen is no longer sitting on the injury report, which makes a huge difference to how dangerous they are offensively at home. 7 of their 10 wins this season have come in their own building, and that is not an accident, because the Jazz tend to feed off that energy even when they are outmanned on paper. On top of that, they are 10-5 against the spread in their last 15 games as a home underdog, which paints a picture of a team that might not win every time but regularly hangs around longer than the line expects. So while the Pistons are the team on the rise and certainly good enough to take this game comfortably if everything clicks, the spread tells a slightly different story than the money line. With Detroit being asked to cover another chunky number and Utah settling into that familiar scrappy home underdog role, the points on the Jazz side start to look a lot more appealing by the time you add everything up. As our first pick for this matchup, the Utah Jazz to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. The Detroit Pistons are averaging 119.2 points on 47.9% shooting, which shows they have become a genuinely efficient scoring team, not just a group that runs around fast and hopes something drops. They are allowing 112.3 points on 44.3% shooting, so while they give up their share of points, they are not exactly gifting clean looks on every possession. From beyond the arc, they are hitting 34.5% and knocking down 74.3% of their free throws, which is solid, but leaves just enough room for off nights at the stripe to drag scores down a touch. They allow opponents to shoot 34.8% from deep and pull down about 47.1 rebounds per game, which means there are plenty of missed shots and second-chance battles that can slow the rhythm, even in games that feel fast. Utah, on the other hand, lives in a noisier statistical neighborhood. The Jazz are averaging 119.9 points on 45.7% shooting, so they can absolutely put points on the board, especially when the jumpers start falling. Defensively, though, they are giving up a huge 127.5 points on 49.2% shooting, which tells you a lot about why so many of their games feel chaotic and wide open. They are shooting 34.9% from 3 and 80.6% from the free throw line, which gives them a bit more reliability at the stripe than Detroit, and that can sneak a few extra points into the box score over 4 quarters. They are allowing 38.1% from deep while grabbing 45.6 rebounds per game, which creates a mix of high-quality looks for opponents and a bunch of extra possessions as long shots turn into long rebounds. At first glance, those numbers look tailor-made for a pure shootout, the sort of game where nobody gets many stops and the total threatens to blow past the posted number early in the fourth quarter. However, that kind of statistical profile also tends to push odds makers into hanging some very ambitious totals, and once you reach that level, it does not take much. A colder shooting night from deep, a slightly more physical whistle, a stretch of half-court possessions, for the scoring pace to lag just enough. With Detroit's defense being more solid than it sometimes gets credit for and Utah still prone to choppy stretches where their offense stalls even in high-tempo games, there is a pretty reasonable path to a final score that lands beneath an inflated number, even if the game still feels offensive-friendly for most of the night. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Los Angeles Clippers versus Portland Trail Blazers. The Clippers roll into this one still playing without Bradley Beal, Derrick Jones Jr. and Ivica Zubac, so their depth, especially up front, is not exactly where they would like it to be right now. The Trailblazers are dealing with plenty themselves, with Jrue Holiday, Matisse Thybulle, Jeremy Grant, and Scoot Henderson all ruled out, while Robert Williams III and Chris Murray are listed as questionable, so their rotation board looks like something you would see in a trainer's room more than a game program. These two last met back on October 26th, when the Clippers took a 114-107 win, which quietly set the tone for how this matchup can look when the more talented side plays close to its level. Since then, Los Angeles went went through a horrid stretch that had everyone questioning their chemistry, then suddenly found a little spark with 2 impressive wins in a row that at least changed the mood and the quotes coming out of the locker room. All season long, fading the Clippers on the road has felt like free money, given they are just 3-13 straight up away from home, which is about as ugly as it sounds on paper. Honestly, that record alone usually makes you want to look the other way when they are laying points in another building. Here is the thing, though, those last 2 wins were not just random scores. They came with better body language and better comments to the media, which suggests this group is at least starting to pull in the same direction for the moment. It is only a small sample, but every run starts with a couple of results, and sometimes confidence shows up before the numbers fully turn. Portland, meanwhile, has a ridiculously long injury report that makes it really tough to trust them against good teams, especially when so many of their key two-way pieces are either out or banged up. The Trailblazers are young and scrappy, but there is only so much you can ask when half the names you expect to see are in street clothes instead of jerseys. Recent history between these teams leans heavily toward the Clippers, who have taken 9 of the last 10 meetings, which hints that this specific matchup has not been much of a coin flip lately. You still would not feel great staking your life on either team, because both have been inconsistent, but if you stack everything together, the Clippers do look like the side on the rise, even if just slightly. If Los Angeles is serious about salvaging this season, these are exactly the games they have to handle, beating a young, banged-up opponent when the door is wide open for them to look like adults in the room. As our first pick for this matchup, the Los Angeles Clippers to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. The Los Angeles Clippers are averaging 111.2 points on 47.1% shooting, which shows they can score efficiently when their stars are clicking and the ball moves with some purpose. They are allowing 115.7 points on 47.6% shooting, so their defense has not exactly been a brick wall, and opponents are getting more than their fair share of clean looks. From beyond the arc, the Clippers are hitting 35.9% and converting 83.5% from the free throw line, which quietly pushes their totals up because they cash in when they get to the stripe. On the other end, they are allowing 37.8% shooting from deep and grabbing about 40.9 rebounds per game, which means plenty of made threes and enough possessions for both teams to build runs. Portland brings its own version of chaos into the mix. The Trailblazers are averaging 117.1 points on 44.6% shooting, so they can absolutely fill it up, even if they are not quite as clean in terms of pure efficiency. Defensively, they are allowing 120.5 points on that same 47.6% shooting clip, which is a big red flag if you are hoping for a low-scoring slog and a green light if you like offense. From deep, they are knocking down 33% of their threes and 78.3% of their free throws, while allowing opponents to shoot 35.8% from beyond the arc and pulling in around 45.2 rebounds per game. Put all of that together, and it starts to sound like one of those games where both teams have chances to get going, where defense comes and goes in waves, and where the shooting numbers, especially from 3 in the line, keep nudging the total upward as the night goes on. Even with all the injuries, the underlying stats lean more toward a game that plays into a higher number than one that grinds to a halt, since neither side has been consistently reliable at stringing together stops. So if you are forced to pick a lane on the total, the scoring profiles, the shaky defenses, and the way both teams allow opponents to put up numbers all suggest that the over on the projected total is the more reasonable look here. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.